Welcome to the Glenn Mercer Show, where we talk all things vegan. If you're not already vegan, no worries, we'll get you there. If you are, tune in for health advice, information on climate change, and all the damage done by our most destructive industry, animal agriculture. We'll also talk cooking, theater, film, and culture. My 2 reasons for starting this podcast: to entertain, to inform, and to make people vegan. Oh, that's 3. Shit. Welcome to the Glenn Mercer Show. You can find us across all your favorite podcast platforms. You could find us on YouTube, and please remember to subscribe. You could find us at realmeneatplants.com. My guest today is Renee King-Sonnen, who is the founder of the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary in Welder, Texas. And her program is called the Rancher Advocacy Program. She's going to tell us about that. Renee, welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome. It's so nice to see you here and great to finally connect.
All right. What are you munching on? I hope it's vegan.
You have to ask me. Blueberries.
Blueberries. Those look like big blueberries.
They are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, wow. So you started out as a cattle rancher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that transition from being a cattle rancher to the owner of a farm sanctuary.
Well, we're the founder of Rowdy Girl. We're a nonprofit, so there's no owners in this world.
Okay, founder. I stand corrected.
It's okay. I just want to make sure everybody understands we don't own nothing. We are. How did I go from a cattle rancher to a vegan farm?
Yes.
Well, it's a story that started when I first moved onto the cattle ranch in 2009. My husband and I had reconnected. We were married once years before, and we reconnected and we're getting married again. And so he had acquired the ranch in at that time it was Angleton, Texas. That's where Rowdy Girl originated. And so reluctantly, I moved to the ranch. I was selling real estate at the time and doing quite well for myself. I was also producing music and, living the life that I love, in the city.
How long ago was this, Renee?
Like I said, 2009.
2009.
Yeah, and I'm a city girl. I was born, raised in Houston, Texas. I was a rhinestone cowgirl. I had a collection of leather boots and all the things, all the leather clothes, but I never had lived on a ranch. So Tommy wanted me to move to the ranch. I wanted him to live in the city. And it was just like Green Acres. If you ever saw Green Acres, where there was the big tug of war between going to the city and going to the country, that was me and Tommy. And finally, I relented very begrudgingly, and I went to the country. That started me on my journey going vegan, and I didn't know it. I didn't know that that was the moment I started transitioning. Nobody told me that was going to happen to me. I didn't have any vegan friends except the cows. So I want to be real clear that I'm not one of those that went vegan because somebody was, talking to me at a rally or a festival or at a restaurant with a bullhorn. I mean, none of that. It was a cow named Rowdy Girl that started changing my heart and my mind.
So you had on the ranch a cow named Rowdy Girl.
No, well, it didn't start out that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't start out that way. What started out was me living on a cattle ranch that I didn't want to be on.
Right.
And Tommy had a bunch of cows.
Yeah.
And I didn't even care about the cows back then.
Okay.
I saw the cows and I didn't care about the cows. That was his job, not mine.
So you were eating meat Not caring about the cows.
None of that, none of that. But I had been actually plant-based before, but not for animals. I had gone whole food plant-based raw actually back a few years prior because I was very much into yoga and trying to do better with my health. But that was a long time before and it didn't stick like a lot of times people don't. But I never even thought about connecting it to animals at that time. And so, anyway, whenever I moved on to the cattle ranch, Tommy wanted me more involved in taking care of all the cows. So he told me about a calf that needed a mama. It was two of them actually. And because I could never have any kids of my own, I thought, wow, I'll go look at these baby calves because I loved animals. I just never thought about loving cows. We're not designed to love cows. We're designed to love dogs and cats, but we're not strategically designed by the world anyway to love cows. So anyway, I went and saw these baby calves and fell in love with them, wanted to buy them. I bought them for $300 a piece, brought them home, and that was the beginning of the clock ticking for me to go vegan. It took 5 years, almost 5 years, of me for me to finally go vegan, but that was the start of my
Now,
journey.
was one of those cows that you bought Rowdy Girl?
That one of them was Rowdy Girl.
And what was the other one?
Her name was Bobo.
But it was Rowdy Girl rather than Bodo?
Bobo.
Bobo. It was Rowdy Girl that convinced you to go vegan. What did Rowdy Girl say to you?
Well, after I got the two calves, Bobo died like within the next week. She never got her colostrum.
Oh.
She didn't get her colostrum. I mean, these were two really baby, thin, little baby calves that didn't have a mama. And I didn't even question it at the time why they didn't have a mama. I mean, I'm a cattle rancher's wife. I mean, I just knew they didn't have a mama. I didn't know why. And so the baby Bobo passed away. She never got her colostrum. But Rowdy Girl thrived. She was the reason I got up in the morning and the reason I wanted to go out there in the evening. And prior to Rowdy Girl, I could have cared less about any of those cows.
Now, what was it about Rowdy Girl that made her such a special cow? You didn't care about the other cows.
She was a baby.
But Rowdy Girl you fell in love with. What were her characteristics?
She was a baby and she needed a mama. And I was a woman that couldn't have kids that needed a baby. I started nurturing Rowdy Girl like she was my child. I started taking care of Rowdy Girl because she needed me and I needed her. And but I wasn't vegan. It just became this symbiotic relationship, and when I would feed her, I would also, it was like she was communicating to me the language of the cows. And I would feed her and she would feed me like the language of the cows.
How did she do that?
How does anybody do anything psychically or intuitively or what? All I know is I began to see things, hear things, witness things I'd never seen before, and it was always there. It's
what
like,
kind of things did you witness?
Well, like it was all black cows. They were all black, and normally you wouldn't be able to even tell them apart. But I started being able to tell them all apart. I started being able to see all their features. I began to hear their moos, and I could distinguish who was who. And I started naming them, and it was like they were telling me their names. It wasn't like, oh, I think I'm gonna name you da da da. It was just like I would, no, you're so and so. Oh, and I started getting to know the cows. They started getting to know me, and it just started happening like that.
What was Tommy thinking as you were getting to know all these cows? For him, they were a business, I assume.
Yeah, he wasn't happy about it.
He wasn't happy about your familiarity with the cows.
He told me to quit naming the cows. He said, Renee, you got to quit naming them cows. We can't sell animals that we name. We did, cattle ranchers do name cows, but typically they're called pasture ornaments, and they put them out in the pasture and they call them ornaments. And so those cows can have a name because they're an ornament. But any cows you send to the market, you're not supposed to name them. They're just supposed to be a number.
Right.
And of course, that ain't the way that nature designed them. No, nature didn't design them to be a number. Man did. And the cattle ranching industry, has a really, really great way of keeping up with all of them through all these tags. So anyway, I started naming them, and Tommy started like getting mad at me because I was so happy. I would, come in and I would talk about Rowdy Girl's friends and, and the family, I was calling, their kids. I was using words like, you don't use those words. You don't say the cows have kids, they have calves. You don't say cows have children, their families. You don't do that, and I was doing all the things you're not supposed to do. And I didn't know. I just was like, well, they're a family, and I said, and so anyway, when he started loading them up, take them to the market, the babies, because we always sent the babies to market every 6 months. And
You
that
sent the babies to market, not
was
the full.
the 6 month olds, yeah.
Oh, I thought they had to be more fully grown.
No, 6 months, 6 months to 7 months. That's when you sell them.
Really? How
That's
many pounds do they weigh at 6 months?
probably 800 pounds, maybe 700, 800 pounds. But what they do then is they sell them at auction. This is what you mostly do. I mean, sometimes you'll sell your older cows or cows that are your problems or whatever. But by and large, you sell, it's called a cow calf operation. And so the calves go to the sale barn. So cattle ranchers can buy the calves to put them in a feedlot to fatten them up for the next 2 or 3
Right.
months.
So then they go from 800 pounds to 1,300 pounds before they get
Yeah,
slaughtered.
exactly. But they go to a feedlot,
Right.
a CAFO.
Right.
And so that's the kind of business we were in. So the first time he did that, that was to my knowledge that I really cared about it. I about had a fit because I saw firsthand with my own eyes the mamas crying for their babies, the babies crying to get out of the trailer. I saw the babies, scrambling, tears bursting from their eyes. I mean, not just trickling, I mean, just all of a sudden, it was just like full on. And the mamas would chase the trailer up that highway, wanting their babies, just wailing with everything in them. And then they would do that for several days after they were gone. And after the babies left, usually it was about 6 or 7 of them at a time, all those mamas were just desperately, you know, in pain. They were in grief, and it did something to me. It got through to me, and I would go out there with them by myself, and I would get on my knees and I would beg for mercy, and I would cry, and I would tell them I'm so sorry. And I don't know I was going vegan and I didn't know it. I was having a spiritual awakening on a cattle ranch and didn't know it was happening. So it was, yeah, I cry thinking about it when I
And
go
so
back.
the mamas would stay behind at your ranch in order to get impregnated again and bring another calf into the world that would be raised to
Mhm.
600, 800 pounds and then sent off to be finished
Over and over again.
over and over again. And so what happened to Rowdy Girl?
She didn't get sold. Uh, she was my cow.
She was your
And
cow. So what happened when she reached 600, 800 pounds?
nothing happened. She was my cow.
She
And she
just
wouldn't go
stayed on
anywhere.
the ranch.
And that was
Did, did,
where,
did Tommy want to send her off?
well,
I'm not trying to get Tommy in trouble here. I'm just
he
curious.
never said, Renee, it's time to send Rowdy Girl off, but because I I headed it off at the pass. Before he ever got a chance to ever say anything about taking Rowdy Girl, I let him know right quick she would never go.
Okay.
And none of her babies would go and all the things. And so Rowdy Girl was off limits. And
Okay. And how many babies did Rowdy Girl have?
She had Houdini. She
Houdini.
had Stella. She had Magic. And then she had Lucky. Lucky was actually the only boy she had. So she had
Oh.
Lucky.
So what happened to Lucky? Did he stay on the farm?
Yeah, but he almost didn't. That's why his name is Lucky.
Yeah. So often the bulls get separated, right? Or turned into steer.
Uh-huh.
But Lucky stayed a bull.
No, Lucky's a steer.
Oh, Lucky's a steer.
We don't have
So
any.
he didn't get that lucky.
He got lucky.
He got lucky.
He didn't get to sent to a sale barn.
Okay.
He jumped off the trailer back in February of 2014. Lucky was on the trailer.
On the trailer to go to the finishing.
Yeah. And he jumped off and hurt his leg.
Wait a minute. He jumped off the trailer before you had turned it into a sanctuary?
Mm-hmm.
Did he have any idea that you were going to turn it into a sanctuary?
Who, Lucky?
Yeah.
Well, I think Rowdy Girl, Lucky, and all the cows knew something I didn't know.
Uh-huh. So do you think they were talking about the possibility that Mama here is going to turn this into a sanctuary and we're safe?
Well, I have a lot of I spend a lot of time in meditation, and I spend a lot of time with these animals. And they don't speak our language, but they speak and they communicate. And just like right now, there's music happening all the way across the world, just like we're able to communicate right here. There's always communication going on that you can't see or hear. If you can tune into it, you get it. And that's what started to happen between me and Rowdy Girl in the herd. There was a connection being made. It started being made when I started feeding Rowdy Girl. Honestly, I think it was made. I think Rowdy Girl, I think she knew. I think she might have chose me.
Now, when you would tell these things to your husband, Tommy, did he believe you?
He was like, he was the kind of person who was scared not, he would like look at me like this, but so many of the things I would say would come to pass. And so even though he didn't believe me, he started questioning whether or not he should not believe me, because so many things that I would intuit and say would come to pass. And so,
what kind of things?
Well, like for instance, whenever I bought all his cows from him, he never once thought I would buy all those cows from him.
You bought the cows from your own husband?
Yeah. And he never ever.
What were those negotiations like?
Well, so it would have been around December of 2014.
Yeah.
I went vegan October of 2014. And the negotiations started when I went vegan, because I couldn't stand the thought of those cows going to the sale barn anymore. Now, once I turned vegan, it was on for me. I mean, and so the negotiations kind of started then, but I had to do everything on the sly. He couldn't know about what I was doing. So
what were you, wait a minute, what were you doing?
Well, I met this woman named Jeannie. She lives in Oregon, her and her husband Mario. And the night I went vegan, Halloween, I started frantically looking up on Facebook, vegans, because I didn't know any vegans, just Rowdy Girl. That was the only vegan I knew. And so I'm looking for vegans because I'd gone vegan that day. And I knew I'd become an ethical vegan because I'd been doing all this research on stuff on my own. And I was looking for vegan friends, and I found Jeannie at like 2 in the morning. It was 2 in the morning on my time. It was like midnight over there. And it was some vegan registry on Facebook where I found her. And anyway, she and I started messaging each other. And next thing you know, I'm talking to her on the phone. Well, I'm blubbering on the phone. I'm crying. I was a mess. I was a frantic, psychologically deranged mess.
Well, why were you such a mess? What was wrong?
Because I'd gone vegan that day.
Why did that upset you?
Because I didn't know we were the only cattle ranch in the world that had happened to, like I didn't know that didn't, I don't know. It's just, I was so upset because my husband was mad, my mother-in-law, I had upset everybody.
Oh, you had announced it to the family and they weren't pleased.
Well, I went over there because we were having a Halloween party for all the kids on Halloween day. Like several days that led up to me going vegan, I was watching slaughterhouse videos. So I was watching all these slaughterhouse videos because I was having a real tough time with Tommy sending all those animals to the sale barn over and over. Every 6 months, it would just break me. And he would try to hide it from me and yada, yada. And so next thing you know, I'm looking up online what happens to all these cows when they go to sale barns, what happens when they go to the sale barn, and then what happens to them next. I started watching all the videos that people don't want to watch.
Right.
All of them. I wouldn't stop. And I would make my husband watch. I would say, look at this. I was just like, look at what they do. Look, this is what we do. All those cows out there, this is where they're going. And he would just like put his ears like this. And he would tell me I was crazy. And I was like, and I was going nuts.
Yeah.
And so on this particular Halloween day, I stumbled across, after watching a bunch of slaughterhouse videos that Tommy would always say, that's PETA propaganda. You can't believe any of that stuff. And I was like, anyway, that's what he called it. And then I stumbled on Melanie Joy. And it was this real laid back dissertation on carnism. I don't know if you've heard the story about the beef stew. Yeah. So she was telling that story.
And I'm sorry, which story?
About the beef stew, when people they're all the family sitting around the table and they're eating, beef stew, and somebody says, oh, I love this so much. What's the recipe? And, the lady of the house says, oh, I'm glad you asked. You start off with a pound of very young golden retriever.
Ah.
Well, as soon as she said that, I've been watching all these slaughterhouse videos for a couple of months. And all of a sudden, it was baby puppies in a bowl. And I'm like, all of a sudden, it was like I could be eating anybody's body chopped up in a bowl and not even know it. It could be a puppy. It could be a person. It could be my grandma. It could be anybody. I would not know. I saw that. And all of a sudden, she said, oh, just kidding. It's really a cow. But nobody at the table could resume eating. And I was just like dumbfounded. About that time, Tommy says, Renee, you got to get dressed. We got to go to my mother's house. The party starts, yada, yada, yada. She's expecting us for dinner, yada, yada, yada. So, you need to get your act together, get some makeup on, because I'd been crying, all that. And so I go put on my makeup, try to look presentable, try to be normal. I didn't know that I was going vegan that day. Nobody told me, I was going vegan that day. I was not planning on it. And I didn't know I was living in an oppressed wife on a cattle ranch. I was actually in oppression. I didn't know that. So I go to my mother-in-law's, and all the kids in the costume, all the family, all the things. And my mother-in-law, bless her heart, God rest her soul, her name is was Effie. She comes out with a big old pot of beef stew. And it was as if I was in the script. You could have like put me right in the middle of it. And I was just like, I mean, she says, Renee, would you like she was just doing this number. And I was like, oh, no, I can't eat that, and all the kids and everything. And she says, well, why not, Renee? She's a very genteel, German stock type person. Well, why not, Renee? I said, because it's got floating dead, hacked up animal bodies in it and I can't eat it. And she was like, what? And everybody in the room got quiet and they looked at me and they said, and mouth was just like, and I said, it's got floating dead, hacked up animal bodies in it. I can't eat it. I'm done. I'm done. And she said, oh, well, you can pick it out. I was like, nope, there ain't no more picking it out for me. I went down that vegan rabbit hole. Boom. And Tommy was mortified. Everybody in the family was mortified. And, I went home throwing out all the meat, telling Tommy he would not have any meat products I went from not being a vegan to being the vegan that nobody wants around them. Nobody wanted me around them because it was as if everything on my insides had suddenly come out here. And it was there and I could do nothing about it. I could not help it. The sight, sound, smell of animals or the products of animals made me cry. It made me sick. And that's what happened, And I went vegan that day. And yeah, it was pretty tragic for my husband and us.
Now, as I understand it, your husband is vegan today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how long did it take Tommy to go over to your side? How did that transition happen?
Well, I went vegan on October 31st, Halloween. And then on May 2nd, Tommy was vegan, plant-based. And the way it happened was we had that negotiation we were talking about, right? I went vegan in October. Next thing you know, I'm trying to figure out how to buy all the cows because I didn't want Tommy selling them anymore. And he was trying to figure out how to not get another divorce and lose everything. And I found that vegan friend. She is the one that said, Renee, you ought to figure out, make a blog, do something, try to get help. And so I did. That's when Kip Anderson reached out to me. I didn't know who he was. And,
Kip Anderson is the filmmaker.
yeah, he reached out to me years ago. He's been on our board for, almost 10 years, but he reached out and he was like, wanting to know what was going on because he had heard about the Vegan Journal of a Rancher's Wife that I had started and trying to like figure out what to do to save all these cows. I mean, it wasn't a ton of cows. It was like 29 of them, but I could not. And then some of them were pregnant, but I could not stand the thought of any of them going to sale. They were like my family now and they were not going to go to sale. And I told Tommy, you will not take them cows up the road one more time. You take them cows up the road, I will follow you. I will go to the sale barn. I will go there. I will buy them all back with your credit card. I'll bring them back home. Don't stop. Don't try me. I will become your worst nightmare. And he knew I'm in it. And he was like, stay out of my business. I said, this is not a business. No more business. We're not selling any more animals here.
That sounded like a moment for marriage counseling, huh?
No marriage counselor could have touched it.
So did he back down and not send the cows off?
I mean, I would have stood in front of the trailer. He would have had to run
so
me
he
over.
didn't have much choice.
He'd have had to run me over. I told him I would go to the Cattlemen's Association. I would make him the most embarrassed person in Brazoria County if he tried to stop me. And, we were members of the Presbyterian Church. He was an elder. And I said, I'll go up there at that church with all those conservative cowboys up there and I'll embarrass you up there. You will not stop me.
Wow.
And I meant it. And, I didn't know that I was creating such a stir. I just knew that my heart was completely on fire. I literally lived with the cows. At that time, during the day, I stayed with the cows all day until sunset. I'd get up in the morning, take my guitar, a lunch, a blanket, and I'd go out with the cows. And then I'd come back. And because I couldn't stand being at home. There was deer heads everywhere. We had a house full of
Oh,
deer heads everywhere. And I
oh,
couldn't stand it. You
that's
know,
hard to look at.
I couldn't stand it. Was going vegan. It was
Yeah.
like I was living in a morgue. I'd walk through the house ducking my head. It's like crazy what happened to me.
Why do people?
All right, if you've ever wanted to show off your plant-based lifestyle and do it in style, here's your chance. We have some of the most amazing t-shirts, hats, accessories, coffee mugs, and more at shop.realmeneatplants.com. We have statement t-shirts that will bring a smile to everyone's face. I love the I Want Tofu Tonight tee. Plus, we have podcast tees, Real Women Eat Plants gear, Real Kids Eat Plants, and Real People Eat Plants, just in case men, women, and kids didn't cover it all. Yeah, we love you and love that you want to show off that healthy lifestyle of yours. Again, check out our high-quality gear at shop.realmeneatplants.com and enjoy.
Why do people put deer heads on their walls? What is the joy they get from that?
Well, they remember the exact moment they were with their nephew or their brother or their daddy. They remember looking through that scope and seeing that animal there.
Uh-huh.
They remember the bond that they made with each other when they shot that deer and killed it dead, strung it up on a tree, bled it out, and took it in to get processed. That is so sacred in our culture, and it's so sickening.
Yeah. So
That's why they do it. So they can talk about it. So they can look at this head and this head and this head and they go, yeah, I remember that. I was over there. They remember everything about it.
it's foreign to me. I didn't grow up in a hunting family. I've never understood it.
That's why it's so hard. Tradition, culture. I mean, Tommy has family, that they do all that. I mean, Tommy's kind of like ostracized in a way. I mean, not like publicly ostracized or anything, but they don't know how to talk to Tommy anymore because his whole family, you know.
Okay, but there was a transition that took place between Halloween. Was it 2014 that you said?
Yeah, Halloween 14.
Halloween 2014, October 31st, and May 2015, when Tommy went plant-based.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Well, I started out just like I told you. I was just Katie bar the door, pretty much cock blocking is what he said. But that's what he called it. I didn't call it that. But then I told him, that I was going to buy all the cows. I said, this is what I said. I said, well, after I started the journal, the Vegan Journal of a Cattle Rancher's Wife.
Yeah.
That's, Jeannie was like in my ear trying to help me. She would send me links to all these documentaries for Tommy to watch. And Tommy, to his credit, watched them every one. And so Tommy watched the documentaries. And he wanted to understand what the hell was going on in my brain. And he started latching on to T. Colin Campbell's, China study. And he really
Forks over knives?
Yeah, forks over knives and all. And his daddy had died from a heart attack at 62 years old. And so he started really going down that rabbit hole. And that is what started to change my husband's mind.
So he began to realize that the career he was in was making people unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to look at it. He just started seeing that, he could really start seeing how it was bad for your heart.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I devised a plan with Kip's help and some other people's help to create a fundraiser to buy my husband's cows. And unbeknownst to him, it was very well thought out and calculated. And I went to Tommy. He didn't know I had calculated all this and that we had a strategy. I went to Tommy one day because it was a secret. And I said, Tommy, I said, will you let me buy your cows? Just let me buy your cows and start a sanctuary. I said, if I can give you all the money you need, because that was the big sticking point, is he couldn't just, give me the cows. He owned the taxes, he owned tractor equipment, payments, taxes on the land. I mean, he couldn't just give me the cows. I mean, back then, he
Right.
always says now, I wish I'd have just gave them to you, but he didn't know what he didn't know, And he said to me, Renee, if you think you can buy my cows, which he was just like, yeah, right. I could probably get 40,000 for them at the sale barn. I'll give them to you for 30. And I
Oh,
said,
that's
okay.
good. That's a marital discount. That's very
Yeah.
nice.
I said, okay. I
Yeah.
said, will you let me lease the land for $1 a year? He said, sure, Renee, because I already had a plan. And he didn't know it. I said, how about 2 years? He said, sure, Renee. He was condescending. He was being very, what do you call it when you just appease somebody? He didn't think I'd do it. And I came back to my friends and we devised the plan. I launched the fundraiser to buy my husband's cows. And in less than 4 months, I raised the money and bought his cows. So every step of the way, Tommy started becoming more and more open-minded. He talked to Kip Anderson. He talked to other vegans that were trying to help him. Listen, we had the fundraiser there at Rowdy Girl on May 2nd. And that was the day Tommy went vegan, is on May 2nd, 2015.
All right.
Yeah.
And has he been happy that he went vegan?
Oh, he's so happy. He's now ethical vegan. I mean, he loves them animals. He
Uh-huh.
went from plant-based to environmental to full-on ethical. He is an ethical 100% vegan now for the animals.
And did you or Tommy have any health changes when you went vegan?
Yeah. I've lost, God, I went from like 150, almost 155. I weigh 118. Tommy is, lost like 35 pounds and his cholesterol went really down. His heart's better, all the things.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So both of you had health improvements. And when you went vegan initially, you knew you weren't going to be eating cows anymore, or chickens, or fish, but did you know what to eat?
That was the hardest part for my husband. For me, uh, I'm very creative. I can get on Google, figure stuff out, order stuff and all. I just started figuring it out. But my husband didn't like the food I was cooking. He likes the meat and potatoes, big time. And so he really started cooking for himself. He started making potatoes and, peppers and onions and, making him some potato tacos. And then he figured out, how to make the tofu taste good.
Uh-huh.
And so, we figured it out. And now Tommy, he keeps, Impossible and Beyond and all them in business because he loves all that.
Uh-huh.
I don't, but he does. He loves it. He has that
Mm.
Beyond sausage every morning. He makes his burgers. And, you know, but it is what it is, right? I mean, you do the best you can. And if Beyond and Impossible and all the brands out there are helping people be able to eat what they're used to eating and nobody's killed, then yeah.
All right. So once you established your sanctuary, in effect, by buying the cows, and you were no longer a cattle ranch that was selling them off to be slaughtered, when did you decide, oh, I'll turn this into a nonprofit? I'll turn this into a cause. I'll start the Rancher Advocacy Program. How did that transition happen?
Well, we became a nonprofit on February 20th, 2015. And the way that happened is we applied for the paperwork very early. A fellow by the name of Drew, who used to work for Farm Sanctuary, got permission to come out to Rowdy Girl to just see everything that was going on. And he got permission to help us. And so he helped me draft all my nonprofit paperwork early. I knew I was going to have to do something to make money. I knew I couldn't just, I couldn't sell cows anymore. We couldn't do it. So I was going to figure out how to become a sanctuary and create a cause, with what I was doing. So uh, that's what I did. And so we applied. I think no, they got the paperwork in the government on February the 20th. That's when everything got stamped. And we got the mail from them like in May or June and of 2015, but it was retro dated back to February 20th, 2015, the day they got it. And so that's when we became a nonprofit, February 20th.
And then did you decide to bring all kinds of animals onto your farm?
It just started happening. I didn't, you know, we just started getting calls. I mean, I didn't go find animals. They found us. You don't have to
Uh-huh.
go look. As soon as people know you're a sanctuary, they find you. That's for sure. And so animals started coming to us. And it was like I was always born to do this, It was like I've always been the kind of person that um, is driven by a mission greater than me. I've always been that way. And, whenever I used to have my school, Renee King School of Performing Stars, I always loved grooming, talent to become the best they could be as a performer. I love teaching, people how to, bring the best out of people. And so when I went vegan, it was like for the first time, I felt like I was finally doing what I was always supposed to do. And it wasn't so people could become the best performers they could be and singers and all. It was so that animals could be free. And I was determined to use every skill, every talent, every nuance of my personality to make that happen in my world. And that's what I've done.
How many animals do you have at Rowdy Girl Sanctuary now?
137,
137. And how many are cows?
68.
68. So about half of them, almost exactly half of them. You have a bunch of chickens?
Bunch of chickens, a bunch of goats. We have 3 sheep. We have 3 rabbits. We have 4 pigs. We have a donkey. We have a turkey. We have a goose. We have some ducks.
Okay. And are some of them separated from the others? It's hard to imagine them all getting along.
Oh, no, you don't just throw them out all there together. They have their own pastures and
Uh-huh.
like chickens have their own coops and
Right.
and 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 areas where they, go out during the day and we put them up at night and
But do the mammals hang out together?
all the goats and all the cows
Yeah.
that they can. We have separate pastures for the cows, and we have a couple of specialized pastures for the older ones, you know. And the goats have their own place, but like we open up the big gate for the goats during the day. They can pretty much go wherever they want because they always come, they don't go far. But so they can mix it up with the cows if they want to, but they really don't.
Hmm.
And then the sheep have a great big 5-acre pasture that we let them stay on, and they're there with the donkey. Uh,
So the donkey and the sheep get along.
mhm.
Does the
Yeah,
donkey think he's a sheep?
no,
No. How could you tell?
no, she misses her
She.
best friend Trixie. Trixie died last year,
Uh-huh.
and she really misses Trixie. And I keep hoping and praying that somebody will call me with a donkey for Dixie.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen listening out there, if you have a donkey to send to the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, and I'm sure many of you do, please get in touch with Renee. You could go to, what's the website, Renee?
RowdyGirlSanctuary.org.
RowdyGirlSanctuary.org. Get in touch with Renee. Tell her about your donkey. And please, folks, if you have a heart, send Renee your donkey. Okay? I think the problem will be solved very soon.
Awesome. Because
Yeah,
Dixie
no
really
problem.
Dixie really needs
Yes.
friend, but I don't go out looking for animals.
No. So I'm just here to help.
Good. Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, let me know when the donkey arrives.
That'll be worth another podcast. Just about
Absolutely.
that.
Now, after you did this remarkable transformation of a beef ranch into an animal sanctuary, and the equally remarkable transformation of your husband into a vegan, then you decided, apparently, that you want other people who are in the animal farming business to transition.
Yeah. Wow. What a trip that's been.
Yeah, so that's the Rancher Advocacy Program.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that. How did that get started, and how much success have you had?
Well, we have the Rancher Advocacy Program, and our other program is Families Choosing Compassion, which is the FFA 4-H equivalent, but it's compassion. But the Rancher Advocacy Program, it happened when I transitioned our cattle ranch, and what I didn't realize at the time was how hard it would be for most cattle ranchers to do that. I took my skills, which I'm blessed to have many, many skills, and all that translated into me being able to navigate the nonprofit, because I was a performer for many years, singer,
Now
educator.
you were a singer, is that right?
Mhm. Yeah, I had my own.
How does that skill translate into what you're talking about now?
Well,
You didn't sing to nonprofit funding sources, did you?
it's singing to the cows, singing,
You
being being able to, yeah,
you
I write songs,
sang to the cows?
I write songs about them. It's in my
Well,
documentary. I sing to the cows in the documentary and the other end.
what are there particular songs that bovines appreciate?
Whatever I'm singing for them.
Okay. Would they be love songs?
You have to watch the Rowdy Girl documentary.
Okay.
But anyway, so the way it all has translated is I'm the kind of person that can get up in front of 20,000 people and perform with a whole dance crew around me.
Uh-huh.
And so that's what I used to do. I had my own band. I performed for USO shows where I was the lead singer with, dancing, choreography all around me, with all the costumes, with a big pit orchestra. And so when you can command an audience, you got a lot of, when you got a gift like that, then you can use that in this industry, which I've done.
So the cows respect that gift.
Not just cows, but I speak all over the world now.
Right.
For them.
Right.
My voice today, instead of singing God Bless the USA with a 40-piece orchestra and a big choreographed bunch of dancers around me, or being on a country western stage, singing to a bunch of people, now my voice is used for the animals all over.
All right.
Uh-huh.
So you decide that you're going to use your skills, use your voice to help other animal farmers transition to the side of the angels here.
what I did is I listened to other cattle ranchers and their families. Again, I never reached out to them. They reached out to me. Just like I don't reach out for animals. I never reached out to the first farmer ever. And so when they would call me crying, and they did a lot, the women, all I tried to do was be an empathetic ear. I tried to understand them and let them know that they weren't alone. And I wouldn't
Excuse me.
think,
So it was often the women who were
yeah,
married to animal farmers who would reach out to you?
yeah,
The women who were in the same position you had been in?
yeah. They saw we were on CBS Evening News. We were in Southwest Airlines magazine. That's what I'm saying. Our story translated. When I was a singer, I was always written up in things. I was always in the news. I was always in papers because I was really, really good. I'm still good at it. But so whenever people would see these news stories, like common everyday cattle ranchers sitting in their living room eating dinner on CBS Evening News, all of a sudden we're in their lap, and these women would contact me, and I would talk to them on the phone, and I would just be somebody that would talk to them and listen to them that they didn't have, that nobody could hear them like I could. And nobody, they had nobody to talk to. And so I didn't start out talking to people wanting to transition their farms. That was never in my brain. What happened was, as a result of talking to many people and letting them know I understood, all at once, one day, somebody that works on our team said, Renee, we need to start talking about your programming and, the kind of programming you need to do at Rowdy Girl. And we were young at the time, in like 2017 or, late 16. And I said, well, and she said, you want to do something different, something nobody else is doing. And I said, well, I don't know. We have the animals, we do tours, you know, what? She said, well, what else do you do? I mean, anything else? And so I said, well, cattle ranchers' wives call me. I mean, I hadn't told anybody about that. It was just all very confidential, quiet. And I said, cattle ranchers' wives call me, quite often. And she got real quiet. And she said, what? I said, yeah, they call me wanting to talk to me about, their heart, their feelings about the cows they're getting ready to send to slaughter. They call me. And she was like, keep talking. And so next thing you know, she's telling me that could be my program. And I was like, how's that going to be a program? She said, well, can you think you could help them figure out another way to, do business? And I was like, well, we do talk about that, but what are they going to do? The USDA and the government and all, everything's designed for cattle ranchers and chicken farmers, animal farmers to stay farming animals. I mean, you get money, you get incentive, you get insurance, you get all the things to farm animals, not to get out of it. And so it was, it was, first of all, it was really about my program, RAP, was really about changing hearts and minds.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it really was about at first. If you look at all the early write-ups about our program, it was about changing hearts and minds, but that wasn't cutting it. And so we started, what happened was I got that phone call years ago about, the chicken farmer in Arkansas that wanted to transition their farm to something else. They didn't know what
mushrooms, was it?
They didn't know what they were going to do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got wrapped up in that thing, and that took years of my life, trying to do everything I could to help them. And I made quite, like, was when I got contacted about that situation, it was really through another person in the movement that's very well known. And this person contacted me pretty much imploring me to talk to these farmers because they were getting ready to, lose the farm. They couldn't feed the cows, all the things. And my heart just went out to that. And I said, what do you need me to do? What can I do to help? And they said, well, they don't have any money. They're going vegan. They stopped their contract. And I was like, oh my God. And so anyway, long story short on that, I drove up there 9 hours and I did a big fundraiser to raise a bunch of money, like right at, I don't know, close to 20,000 or so, to get them some hay for them cows. And then I implored one of our funders to give them money so that they could keep the lights on and have food and all the things. And so anyway, that's where it started. And then the next thing I'm trying to help them figure out what to do. It just started kind of developing. And I just kept trying to help. And in the same like sentence almost, there was another couple trying to transition, away from animal. Their family wasn't animal farming, and they were vegan, and they were trying to do something different on their land. But I wanted to help them too. But it's like, this farm in Arkansas was just taking all my attention. So, long story short, there I tried. We've got tons of money, that I was able to help them with. But sometimes things just aren't meant to be. And this, that particular situation that I was trying to help them with just wasn't meant to be because the funders couldn't keep funding it. And so because they couldn't make it work. And so because they couldn't make it work, the funders finally had to stop funding it.
So it's very difficult to make this transition from, let's say, being a chicken farmer to mushroom farmer. It's tough to make the economics work.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're upside down like they were,
So the problem is starting with too much debt.
So much debt. And that's the problem is these government, our government, wants you in debt.
Right.
They want it's like it,
and so do the big chicken operations, right?
Yes, they want you.
These farmers effectively become indentured servants of the big poultry operations.
That's what I was just about to say. You took the words out of my mouth.
I knew that.
That's what happened to them.
So you know what the cows are thinking, and I know what you're thinking.
There you go.
So it's a tough industry.
It's tough. It's tough. And do I still believe it can happen? Yeah. I believe it can. I believe it will. I believe one day, 50 years from now, when I'm dead and gone, maybe somebody will be saying, remember that crazy rowdy girl? She had a bright idea, but I mean, what do you do? I mean, my mission was not to transition farms. My mission was to transition hearts and minds.
Right.
That was my real mission.
Yeah.
And so it turned into this thing because my heart was so big for them that I wanted to help them so bad that I used the people that fund us and others. I just begged them to help, and they did. And they're good people, but you can't keep. Sometimes, when it's business, you got to make a business decision.
Yeah. So it's a lot easier to start a mushroom operation than to transition from a chicken farm to a mushroom operation.
I wish it wasn't so.
Yeah.
I wish it was. I was just talking to a chicken farmer because people still call me. They call me all the time. I get probably 1 or 2 calls a month. Not all the time, but 1 or 2 calls a month from nowhere. A chicken farmer, where was she from? A lady wanting to transition her chicken farm to a mushroom farm, and if I can help somebody figure it out just by talking to them and they can go do it, I mean, I am a resource, I have been through the ringer on trying to help, people. transition. So it's just something I've had to kind of make a choice. You know, do I want to continue to throw all of my energy, time, resources, and all into that when our story, our Rowdy Girl story, is being told in a documentary. My book is coming out, soon. I mean, I've got a talent agent in New York, United Talent Agency, that is a proposal's being written, and it'll be pitched to, major publishers, all the major publishers, and a big, narrative film is being made on our story. I mean, the script is being written and pitched. So, I had to make some decisions. I've got to change hearts and minds. I can't just spend all my time trying to fight the government, which that's what you got to do. You got to fight the government. And that's like evil.
So tell us about first the Rowdy Girl documentary. Can people see that now? Is that out?
It is out, but it's in film screenings. It's in festivals all over the world. It was in Ukraine. It was in Brazil. It was in Korea. We had the opening, the world premiere was at Hot Docs in Toronto. The United States premiere was at Hamptons Film Festival. It's been, I just got back from Hollywood and Santa Monica and New York City. Moby met me there, and Moby, is our executive.
Did Moby provide any music for the documentary?
The only music in the documentary is me singing and the animals.
Okay.
Singing the animals in a cappella, the animals and the conversations I had with cattle ranchers and people that came to visit.
Okay.
And then
so the documentary is not currently available to the public to be seen, but
it's in theaters. So like if you are like right now, I think it was in Pennsylvania last week.
Can they find on a website where it may be playing? At which website?
RowdyGirlFilm.com.
RowdyGirlFilm.com. So go to RowdyGirlFilm.com and see and what's the name of the documentary?
Rowdy Girl.
Rowdy Girl. Well named. Okay, so that's the documentary. And who's the director?
Jason Goldman.
Jason Goldman, that's right. All right. Now, what about the book? Is the book is a manuscript looking to get published? Is that it?
Yeah, it's called Secret Diary of a Cattle Rancher's Wife. That's the working title.
Okay. And is that by you alone?
By me alone.
Okay.
I wrote every word.
Okay.
And Jane Velez Mitchell listened to every word. I read it to her. She was my muse.
Okay.
But anyway.
And so you're shopping that book around for a publisher.
United Talent Agency, Bird Level is my agent. And in New York. And I actually have been talking to a publisher that really was interested, a major one, but I think we're going to be taking it far and wide. So it's really, a lot of people are reading it in the world that can make a difference. So,
well, that's great. Can you share the name of the title, the title of the book with us?
Well, right now the working title is Secret Diary of a Cattle Rancher's Wife.
Okay.
I don't know what I think that's probably a good title, right?
That's a good title.
We'll see if it stays that way.
Okay.
And then the movie that's being written right now is produced. It's going to be produced by Kip Anderson, Cameron Waters, Roger Wolfson is writing it, and will also be helping produce. And I'm the executive producer.
And so this will be a feature film based on a true story, based on your story.
It's so funny. I just read the treatment, another draft of it last night. It's hilarious.
Well, who's going to play you?
I don't know.
Scarlett Johansson?
I don't know. Who
I
is
think
that?
that would be a good choice. We could get her to turn vegan.
I have to look her up. I don't know who it is.
Oh, okay.
I don't watch TV.
Okay.
I mean, I watch it. I guess I'll watch it when it comes out. And if somebody tells me I need to watch something because of
Uh-huh.
whatever reason, I'll go watch it. But
Uh-huh.
I don't keep a TV on.
Okay. Well, do you have a favorite actress to have in mind to play you?
Well, I mean, I remember when like I love Julia Roberts, but she's
Uh-huh.
probably too old now. I don't know. She might not be. Um, and I like what's that girl's name that played Pinky Tuscadero?
Yeah. Well, I
And
think you just, by the way, I think you just lost your chance of getting Julia Roberts. So
why?
because you said, I think she may be too old.
Oh, well, I doubt it. Why?
Well, she probably wouldn't want to hear that.
Well, I think the reason why I'm telling you that is because they're
Yeah.
trying to do it. They want the person that plays me to be like, I think in their late 30s.
Oh, I see. I see your point. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson,
What'd she play in?
she's been in many films. She's been in some of those superhero films,
Hmm.
and she was in a Woody Allen film. She's a big star.
Did she sing?
Uh, Probably. She played a senator from Mississippi recently. She was hilarious.
Oh, well, I have to look her up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people have heard of her, believe me.
Well, I probably when I see her, I'll know.
Yeah.
But, when I met Tommy, the first words out of my mouth to Tommy, I was sitting on his lap
Yeah.
singing crazy. I was singing at a nightclub with a band, a duo. I had a duo, and I had a wireless microphone. And Tommy walked into this nightclub. It's a long story. I won't go into it, but I walked off the stage with the spotlight that I used, and I went over and sat in his lap and started singing crazy.
Uh-huh.
And it's been crazy ever since. So
Uh-huh.
that is how Tommy and I met.
Wow. Do you think Tommy would be willing to come on my podcast one day and I'll get his perspective?
Yeah, you ought to get Tommy.
Yeah.
He's he's so good.
Yeah.
I Yeah, I mean, when Tommy does go with me anywhere,
Yeah.
I can just sit in the background.
Yeah. Well, would you tell Tommy that I'd love to have him on the show?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I will.
All right. Um, well, there seem to be great things ahead of you, Renee. A book, a movie, and the documentary is out and playing in different theaters now. We got to get it on TV though. You got to get it streaming.
Eventually, it will.
Yeah.
It's just the producer, the director, they have a big plan for it all. So,
Yeah.
we got distribution, and so as soon as all this plays out, it'll be in schools, and eventually it will be streaming. But then it's going to be, everybody's going to know about it and will want to
Yeah.
stream. So it'll be
Yeah.
good. It's doing it.
More people will find you, and then more animals will find you.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
that's why I said I had to put my focus. I still believe, I mean, I'm always here to help anybody want to transition. If I
Right.
can say something, if I can connect you, like I sent this one person over to, transformation over at Mercy for Animals. I mean, because, maybe they can help. Uh, there's others doing it now since I started, all the noise about this. I mean, now there is other organizations trying to do it. I don't know how much, I mean, it's not easy, so my hat's off to anybody that stays in that mess. It's hard, but now rap, just so you know, because rap, has its own social media too.
Now, when you say rap, you mean the Rancher Advocacy Program.
Yeah, I mean because now all of our content now on our social channels is all about education, inspiring, waking people up, It's, the program now has just turned into just telling the stories about farmers that are transitioning, telling the stories about, news, new products that maybe are making waves, legislation that's being changed. I mean, we just educate now.
That's wonderful. All right. Well, Renee, it's been a great pleasure speaking with you. And I'm wishing you all the success in the world with the book and the movie.
Thank you.
And one day you should be a household name like Scarlett Johansson.
So somebody can say, who's that girl? I don't know her.
So people can find you at rowdygirl.com and rowdygirlsanctuary.org. Is that right?
No, rowdygirl.com is, no, it's rowdygirlsanctuary.org.
Right.
And all the social channels. I mean, we're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. I mean, we have over 10,000 followers now on Twitter. How did that happen? We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube.
And what's the name of the YouTube channel? Rowdy Girl?
Rowdy Girl Sanctuary.
Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. And is there a for the Rancher Advocacy Program, is that found through rowdygirlsanctuary.org?
It's also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
So it's not on TikTok, but RAP is on what is it? X. It's X, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah, X.
I don't know what that's about.
Yeah. Well, they paid that guy something like $50 billion to change the name from Twitter to X. I would have done it for less. Renee, it's been a great pleasure speaking with you. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I'll tell Tommy to reach out to you. Please.
Oh, yes. I must interview Tommy.
All right. Well, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been the Glenn Mercer Show, where everyone listening turns vegan, regains their health, and annoys their friends and relatives. Find us on YouTube at The Glenn Mercer Show and across all your major podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe.